Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Special Finance Committee meeting of March 20th, 2025. I acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Siano and Stout First Nations. The District of Metchosin is committed to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and we recognize, honor, and respect the presence of Indigenous peoples past, present, and future. Committee, we have an agenda before you. Any changes or additions? Seeing none, we can accept it as presented. Thank you. And there's no public here today, so we'll just keep moving along. So this afternoon we have a presentation, a report on Teams. First time we've done Teams. And so when we are speaking, speak clearly into the mic so that our presenter can hear us. This is a committee workshop, and it's the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society Facilities Master Plan being facilitated or presented by Mr. Maxwell Harrison of Expedition Management Consulting Limited. Welcome, Maxwell.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Would you like me to dive into the presentation?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Excellent. And actually, if you wouldn't mind, it'd be nice to do a quick round of introduction just so I know who's around the table over there, because I don't have video quite yet. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm Maxwell Harrison. I'm a senior associate with Expedition Management Consulting. I am the project coordinator for the Facilities Master Plan for the West Shore Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan. So very involved in the whole process and doing the engagement work, and I will be involved in writing the plan as well. So I'll pass the mic over to your end of the table. Can we do a quick roundtable intros?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. So I'm Councillor Donaldson, and I'm the finance chair. I'm also a board member of the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society.
Hi, I'm Marie-Trace Little, Mayor of Metchosin. Sherry Epp, I'm a councillor.
Steve Gray, councillor.
Hi, Mr. Harrison. My name is Jay Chuk, and I'm a councillor, and I'm also the chair of the Parks, or a liaison to the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee. Thank you.
And did we want to introduce our staff as well, please?
My name is Jeffrey Creek. I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Bob Payette, Chief Administrative Officer.
Jennifer Miller, Recording Secretary. Tina Hansen, Deputy Corporate Officer.
And that's all of us. Back to
Fantastic. You. Great. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the intros there, and glad to hear we have a full complement of council over there. Fantastic. So that's the introduction. That's great. I'll deliver a quick PowerPoint presentation that gives a bit more background about what this project is all about and the process behind it. Should only take 5 minutes or so. Then I've got a number of questions I'd like to pose to District of Metchosin Council, and to hear your thoughts and responses to those questions. That's where we'll spend most of our time today. And we have about an hour. If it goes a little bit over, I've been told that's okay, but I'll try not to keep you much longer than that. Right. So yeah, in terms of the agenda, introductions, we'll do a quick overview of the project, then we'll get to that input opportunity. And just a little bit more about our team over here at Expedition Consulting. We are a team of recreation, parks, culture, and tourism development specialists. We've completed facilities master plans for recreation and sport in communities across Canada. We're really excited to be working on the island and in the West Shore with you folks. And we're also We've partnered with Lanark, which is a landscape architect firm that's based on the island. So their team members are helping us out with some of the in-person components and some of the outdoor planning components of the project as well. And then behind the scenes here, we have Justin Rousseau, he's our managing director for Expedition. He's heavily involved in the project, as well as our Cassandra and Lisa on the Expedition team, and myself, of course. So the overall project deliverable that we're striving to develop here is a facility master plan, and the purpose of that plan is to provide guidance to the society over the next 10 to 20 years in making decisions that best meet the recreation and sport needs of the communities in the West Shore. So it's a very facilities-based project focused on that built environment and the infrastructure that's needed to support recreation and sport in the West Shore. And of course, there's the study area there. We have the 5 partner municipalities in the society, and that's our study area. That's who we're seeking input from in terms of your council, your administration, and of course your residents. That's who we'd like to hear from too. We have a 5-phase process, and we're nearing the end of phase 2, which is the community engagement phase. And then following that, we'll be conducting some additional research and analysis, synthesizing that with the community engagement results, and then developing a draft master plan, at which point there will be opportunity for public comment and feedback on the draft plan. We want to check back with the communities in the West Shore, make sure what we heard the first time makes sense, and that the priorities are ordered in the right way, and that the highest needs are identified appropriately in there. And then once we collect that input, we'll be able to develop the final master plan in phase 5. Now, the level of community engagement that we're seeking is at the involved level. So it's at the middle of this continuum here. And what that really means is our engagement goal is to make sure we're working directly with the community, ensuring that their concerns and aspirations and needs are considered. And our promise to the public is that we're going to honor the input that we receive. We're going to make sure it's directly reflected in the report. Now, that isn't to say that every request is going to be included in the report or be a high priority necessarily. We want to make sure what we're recommending is really well justified. But at the end of the day, it's a non-statutory plan. It is recommendation. So decision-making responsibility in terms of how much of the plan gets implemented, how fast, that ultimately rests with the society and the municipal partners. Now, there's a host of input opportunities that have been, and some still are, available to community members. And these next slides describe those. So there was an online resident survey, and we got a really good response to that. There's also a community group survey that got a really good response. We hosted digital community input workshops. We also hosted in-person input workshops and engagements for youth and seniors specifically, as well as we hosted in-person engagement stations in each of the 5 partner municipalities, and that happened over the course of last week. And we're also facilitating these council input workshops for each of the municipal partners. It's really important to hear from you folks in terms of what you see as the priorities in your communities and how you'd like to continue working together. We did an input workshop with the Society Board. We're also looking to do engagement discussions with your First Nation partners, conducting one-on-one interviews with key stakeholders and partners. And we're also pleased to provide an open offer for engagement. So, for whatever reason, your residents weren't able to participate either in the survey or the engagement workshops, the pop-ups, we posted our contact information. They're more than welcome to reach out to us. We'll find another way to collect their input. We don't want there to be any barriers. Open door policy over here. If somebody wants to provide input, we want to hear it. Now, this slide touches on the various research and analysis activities that we'll be conducting, because community engagement, of course, a really important input into this process, but it isn't the only input. We're going to be collecting information from an in-person facilities tour, which took place last week, myself and Justin had the pleasure of visiting the West Shore and reviewing the indoor and outdoor recreation and sport facilities that are available to your residents with WSPR staff. Then we'll be collecting some other research and data from them, like utilization statistics, condition assessments of facilities, that type of thing. Looking at the inventory of facilities that you have and where there might be gaps. Assessing existing programs and if there's any gaps related to those or inputs, demand indicators that we could use to support our recommendations, as well as conducting an organizational analysis and reviewing how recreation and park services are delivered in the West Shore. There seems to be a lot of players in that sandbox. So really diving deep into that and understanding how it all works and how it might be able to work even better in the future potentially. That'll be part of this project. Looking at that governance agreement that's in place between the municipal partners and the society. And then once we do those pieces, we'll be developing a vision, supporting goals, and some actions and implementation planning for the society. So the result of all that, what we're shooting for, is a document that's visionary, clear, and ultimately useful. We really hope this document turns into, your playbook, the society's playbook for all things recreation and sport related to facilities. So in terms of some next steps here, we're looking to wrap up the community engagement process this month and potentially early into April here. Then we're transitioning to complete those research and analysis activities I mentioned. And then we'll be developing the draft facilities master plan later on this summer. So before we get into the questions that I'd like to ask District of Chosen Council, if you have any questions for me about the project, the process, or what you demonstrated here, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Anyone from the committee?
Any questions over there, Tina?
Have some questions for Maxwell? Councillor Gray.
Max, I wonder, there was an event the other night here
You
in
may be
Metchosin.
muted. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? I'm just wondering about the participation at the Metchosin School the other night, how many people came out?
Oh, sorry, I just caught the tail end of that comment there. Can you say it again?
Max, I'm curious at the public meeting in Metchosin if it was well attended or not.
Oh, yes. Here, let me just give me 2 shakes. I'll pull up the engagement metrics for that.
I am aware that a number of people have been enjoying the programs that have been set up at the old school. And that's certainly an indication of interest and excitement about West Shore.
Nice. Yeah, good to hear that. I have here that we spoke with 18 people at the Metchosin School pop-up.
Thank you.
Any other questions there? And apologies if I missed any earlier ones. It looked like we may have been having some audio issues.
Yeah. Max, can you talk about your timelines? When do you expect to deliver or move things to phase 4, say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to. Here, I'll pull up the work plan. Yes, so we'll be looking to submit a draft master plan on July 31st. And really how we do things is our draft master plans, like they're pretty close to fully baked. There won't be any gaps in it. It'll have all the justification, all the information needed in it. And that isn't to say there isn't room for it to change. And of course, that's the purpose of collecting feedback on it. If there's anything that does need tweaking, we're sure to do that. But for all intents and purposes, it'll look like a final plan. It'll be well designed. All the recommendations will be there. The vision will be fully thought out. And then at that point, through August and September, we'll be collecting feedback from councils and our client, West Shore, and residents as well. With a final plan to be submitted by October 30th. Any other questions there?
I notice your focus is on both recreation and sports. Now, there's a huge amount of money that's invested in sports in the community, not that there can't be more, but there's really a minimal comparison in the amount of money spent on the arts. And so I wondered what you saw as being under the recreation title, if there was, because there really is a need for more facilities and availability for the arts, music, theater, dance. There's a lot, and there's a lot of people involved in those things as well as in sports. So could you just talk a little bit about what you see under the recreation category?
Yeah, definitely. And just a comment on arts and culture. From the RFP and through our proposal process, it's not like technically within scope for what we're looking at here, but we are still hearing about it through some of our discussions with stakeholders, our input opportunities, and the survey. So there could be an opportunity potentially through this plan to at least highlight some of those needs in there. Yeah, in terms of like recreation and sport, what's included under that, we're really looking at things that are active in their nature. So, some of those more like passive recreational use amenities, things like public parks, for example, that's not in scope for this type of project. So yeah, it is more of those like active participation type activities.
Hey there, it's
Any
Bob.
questions? Oh, sorry, Jordan, go ahead.
Through the chair. What is this, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan? Are you taking in consideration the massive growth of Langford versus non-growth of other municipalities, and how will that be balanced?
Oh yes, yeah, the growth, that is something that well, we looked at some numbers before we arrived in the West Shore, and it shocked us. It was a lot of growth, like Langford, for example, is like one of the fastest growing communities in all of Canada, but it didn't really strike us as much as it should have until we got to the West Shore and you see all the cranes and all the new builds and the development happening. So yeah, that is well on our radar. We're going to need to really strongly consider. It's going to be one of the main indicators, I think, into our recommendations. And this is a 20-year plan, but within that, really a lot of the focus does happen in the first 10 years because there's going to be so much growth. I think a lot of these recommendations that are going to be coming through, you're probably not going to want to wait 20 years to get some of them done, but we do want to look at that longer term horizon there through this work.
Mary Little?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the report. I guess since we're in budget season, we already pay a considerable amount towards West Shore Parks and Recreation, and we're co-owners. I think overarching, there has to be considerations about funding, and there will be a lot of asks and a lot of suggestions, but we're all in very tight financial constraint situations, and so looking forward, we really need to. We can have lots of suggestions and lots of asks and wants, but I think we will have to focus on the needs. But that fiscal responsibility is sort of an overarching theme over any kind of plan going out 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. And point well taken there. And I do have a question specifically related to that. So we're already getting in and collecting some input there. So right on, we're ahead of the game. But point well taken on the fiscal responsibility side. Appreciate that. Any further questions before we get into the questions I have for you?
Yeah. I think it's the third slide where you're talking about the team. And you talk about all the stuff you do. So feasibility study for recreation, governance, financial analysis, community engagement. Are those elements going to be put in the master plan? And, you know, I do apologize because I think we've seen material before and probably covering the scope, but I sort of missed that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So that slide there, number 3, that spoke to the service offering of our
Yeah.
firm,
Yeah.
not necessarily the scope of this project. So there's a
Okay.
bit of overlap there in terms of master planning and understanding, feasibility studies for recreation facilities. But this project is just a facilities master plan project for recreation and sport amenities. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Just returning to Councillor Epps' point, we do have ballet studios at West Shore Parks and Recreation, and I think there's pottery studios, and I think any kind of master plan with the West Shore Parks and Recreation really needs to include some of the other the arts as well, and so it should be mentioned somewhere because we do have a growing population of young families that will want some of the programs for youth, which include some of the arts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Point well taken there.
I'm just jumping on.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
Jumping on that, it's nice. Co-location helps too. If you've got kids or someone who may be at a art class, but then someone else in the family doing swimming. It's just nice to be able to go to a place where there's a variety of things on offer. As has been the case.
Right. Yeah. So you see that as one of the key strengths of WSPR's current recreation campus at the Juan de Fuca Center, having lots of different options available all at the same site.
And then I have a question. I didn't complete the survey yet, and I'm curious, does the survey have a part where people say where they're from? I'm thinking that people up in Highlands maybe have a different perspective, say, than the people in Drew Royal or Colwood.
Yeah. Oh, sorry for interrupting.
Just so you're keeping track of where people are from as they respond.
Yes, we are doing that. There is a question in the survey that asks where people reside. And from the preliminary data we were seeing, we were actually really encouraged to see that the breakdown of respondents almost perfectly matches with the population distribution within the West Shore, which I thought was really interesting. So it looked like we were getting accurate representation throughout the West Shore. It wasn't as if some of the certain communities were not getting engaged, or other ones were kind of like taking up all the or providing all of the input.
One more question from me. Is there engagement with the First Nations in our region as well, specifically?
Yes, that's right. Our group, our Lanark team members, in partnership with West Shore Parks and Recreation staff, will be reaching out to local First Nations groups through their processes. And West Shore Parks and Recreation luckily has some good relationships there, and they know kind of the process and the protocols. So they're helping our team move forward with that.
Okay, Maxwell, did you want to go on with your questions on the slides here?
Absolutely. Okay. So first question here is related to current state. So yeah, appreciate some of your comments and thoughts around how important is recreation and sport to your community, and yeah, maybe some thoughts about why you think that is, or if you can kind of give us some stories about examples of like what does that look like in your community. Would anyone like to start us off here?
I will start off with that. So we are, as you may know, a rural community with an abundance of trails, and we have large amounts of green space as well as shoreline, as well as some CRD parks. Recently, in the last year, we have refurbished an old school, and we have a gymnasium and classrooms, and West Shore Parks and Recreation is just starting to do a trial run on some indoor classes, which seem to be quite favorable to our residents. Those are happening midweek during the day. And we've gotten some phenomenal response to that. Just wondering if in the future, I'm hoping that that will continue, but as we get some results from the surveys, if some of those classes might be considered different days so they don't conflict with, we have a community group that does jazzercise, we have pickleball, those sorts of things, so we can maximize on things like parking and have more people come out, as opposed to splitting the population up of them having to choose one fitness class over another. So those are some of the things that I would like to see us find a balance of as the interest for recreation seems to be increasing. Right now, those classes are more geared to people around during the day. So the people who are leaving the community to work, we don't have anything yet offered for evenings. Many of the families will leave the community to go down to the recreation center for soccer, swim lessons, that sort of thing. So if the public engagement or feedback on the surveys presents anything that would suit the needs of some of our youth or people who have careers outside of the community, I'm interested to hear what those results will be, especially now that we have sort of a satellite opportunity for recreation at our school, similar to what Langford has at Centennial Park with arts and culture in the building there. And then Colwood is proposing a community recreation building in Royal Bay, which is very near to us. And I believe that West Shore Recreation will be doing facilitating programs out of there too. So all of those things will be complementary, but probably more specific to each of our communities. So there is interest for sports recreation. Just I'm curious as to what the results of the public engagement will be as well, to see how complementary that will be.
Yes, likewise here as well. Thank you for your comments.
Councillor Epp?
Chosen has 26% of residents are seniors or older, and so some of the pilot projects that West Shore is putting on right now during the day, the exercise classes are well attended, and it's mostly by that age group, and it really is important to them that classes are in the community. There's several of them that I've heard say that would not drive into Colwood to go to the rec center for classes, but they will come to classes in our community. So so that's great to have. And as Councillor Donaldson was saying, is if we could increase that to maybe evening classes, that would be more suitable for other ages as well. It just makes quite a difference to have something that's just 5 minutes away as opposed to half an hour.
Right. Yeah, it can make all the difference. And are these local programs facilitated by the West Shore Parks and Recreation? Is that new, or is that something they've tried in the past, or it's kind of been ongoing? Can you characterize that a bit for me?
It's new. This is these are pilot projects, so it's just started, I guess, a couple of months ago. Yeah, January. So and they've proven very popular.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you for your comments, Councillor Rapp. Would anyone like to go next?
Thanks, Max. I feel like for Chosen, recreation is kind of elemental to the community, primarily because we have there's so much. Many of us have larger rural lots, and so just having that property means you're kind of constantly exercising. So whether it's gardening, farming, dealing with the trees that have fallen down or whatever. So I'm always, and I'm one of those people. Like I've been to the recreation center to do, say, an archery shoot, but I haven't gone into the pool or the weight room or whatever. And it's for me, it's really intriguing who gets out there. So for example, if you have young families and you want to have your kids do swimming lessons, you're there. Or if you want to be buff, you go to the weight room or whatever. It's always interesting to see what sort of niche programs appeal to people. And it has been interesting to see the response to the programs that have been here. From what I've seen, it's almost a fanatical level of support for them, and particularly with not having to travel and older people. So I just throw those observations out. And what's interesting for me too, and understanding who uses the Wanda Fuca Center. Again, the question I have is how many Machosanites will make use of it, and a big thing for us, Mayor Little touched on it as well, is as the communities grow and maybe grow at different levels, how are we going to be dealing with funding and all that? So it's not specific to your question, that sort of response, but it's something that comes to mind, I think, but does spring kind of from some of the elemental, components of Machosen. So.
Right.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments there. And yes, we'll get into the funding on question 3 there.
Sure. Sure.
And good. Strong words there. Elemental, fanatical support. It's painting a picture. Thanks. Who'd like to go next?
That's a great.
Yes, I'll speak. I'll just say, so we've been here for a while now, and our kids grew up here. We were at the rec center constantly in their growing up time. A couple of my kids were in swim club, so that gets you to the pool a lot. But co-located with the library, again, that idea of the proximity of sort of different activities, whether it be the arts we talked about earlier, but also the library there, I think makes a big difference, particularly for young families. So I guess I see it as really valuable in terms of the early years and school years, but just generally speaking, having recreation and sport in the community is good in terms of healthy community and healthy individuals. I haven't had as much experience with the other sport teams, but I know hockey's been very popular, again, for the young folks, and then oldsters as well. So sort of through our lives, I think the rink has been a special attribute that's been well used by people in Machosen. And then the senior center, I guess, has a contract with West Shore Park and Rec. Is a separate entity, Shelley? Oh, they lease it, yeah. That, again, co-location has been really nice. So I think when we think about the size of that property and what's all on that one location, it's a pretty special resource for our community. But I certainly see the value in recreation and sports. So all growing up time, I coached soccer with the kids, and so we used the fields down below, and then baseball. One of my sons got into baseball. So we've used it throughout their lives, and it's been a really special thing. And when I say about the community effect, the team sports, of course, you're meeting other parents or other participants, and that's an important part of the activities there. So you got physical fitness, you got community. Those are the things that I think are valuable to us all. I haven't been so much to the big rink, and I guess that's the junior A level hockey. That is people really enjoy as well in terms of attending, but I don't know any of the players.
One thing I'd like to say too is we have quite a few young lacrosse players in Machosen who actually have come to council for support in financing and whatnot. And it seems that it's a very growing support, whether it's box lacrosse, co-ed, girls lacrosse now, and field lacrosse, as well as BMXing is quite popular. With our school, we also have a large play field, which is fenced, has backstops. It's underutilized right now. It's more popular with people exercising dogs. So that is another option that West Shore Parks and Recreation can consider. In the past, we have seen the roving counts with the youth through the summer, both at Hans Helgeson School, which isn't far from our town core, and as well as Machosen School. That's quite a few years ago. I understand from staff that there is an interest to bring a summer camp back to the Machosen School site, so looking forward to that, and hopefully that'll be a nice lift off. The fact that we're so close to Royal Bay, I'm sure we can attract residents from the Royal Bay community out to Metchosin. It's about a 7-minute drive. So that's a great place for us to draw on our neighboring community as well. Councillor Shukin, you have another comment?
Just one question, information question. How many ice surfaces in the facility?
2.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 Fuca and Q Center.
Okay.
And 1 pool.
And Max, when you're looking at your, facility assessment, I would trust that you're going to look at how busy those ice sheets are and whether they're at capacity or need expansion or.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, utilization statistics are an important input for us, and not just for West Shore facilities, but we also want to look at other, whether it's private or municipally run ice surfaces in some of the other communities. I think Langford does have at least one other ice surface run by a private group, and then even looking potentially more broadly in the region. So outside of the West Shore, to the east there. In the greater Victoria kind of Saanich area too. We want to see how those facilities might impact needs over time. We have heard from most folks that it seems people from the east are heading into the West Shore to recreate, not so much the other way around. But if you have any contrary examples or data points to that, I'd be curious to know that.
Councillor.
Yeah, as far as facilities in Metchosin, now that we have the former gym, we do have that indoor facility, but our outdoor options are really limited. We do have a large sports field, but it's not suitable for much. It needs a lot of work to get upgraded into any kind of standard that teams could actually play on safely or practice on. And our tennis court is in disrepair. We really need a multi-use sports court would be a facility that would be really, really useful in Metchosin. That's about it I can think of.
Okay, just getting that note here for your comments.
And for those that are keen to play cricket, we have a large cricket field that's pretty busy throughout the summer, actually probably about 5 months of the year. So if anybody in the West Shore is looking for a new sport, that is one that's been very popular here in Metchosin. People from town come out to that one. So certainly could be an addition to West Shore Parks and Recreation.
Very good. Okay, good. Busy cricket field.
Max, I guess just another personal experience. One of my kids is a keen cyclist, so he's ridden the velodrome, but didn't compete there. And I guess that's just a facility that is more serving the entire CRD, but I don't know about Metchosin people particularly, but it is something that has been celebrated at different times.
Mm-hmm. It's a really unique amenity. I mean, not many communities have an outdoor velodrome or have access to it. Okay, any other comments about question 1 before we move on?
One more.
Just one more that I realize is probably impossible, but I would love to see the return of a curling rink.
In Metchosin or?
Anywhere. Anywhere in the West Shore.
Okay.
That did come up actually at the Langford Open House. I noticed there were several requests for that, so it may come back.
Right. Yeah, so my understanding is there used to be a curling rink at the JDF Rec Center, but then it was repurposed into kind of like a multi-use field house / gymnasium style. Is that right?
It's interesting. It would be neat to reflect on that. Like, has it really been missed? Has it really been missed, the curling rink? I mean, obviously, sorry, no disrespect. But again, and again, the cost of maintaining the ice and all that. I remember the curlers came to the chamber and they were, trying to rally to get the rink saved. But and again, just as an example of usage, cost savings, etc. So
it was quite popular in the past, as Councillor F can attest, and I remember that as well. The one thing that West Shore Parks and Rec tries to do is try to diversify each part of their property. They're at maximum capacity right now. So when they changed it over to a dry floor, it took a little bit of time, but now it's a real hub of activity. As an example of how they diversify things, and I always go back to this one because it's so cute. The lawn bowling area, which is very specific to lawn bowling, a certain height of grass, and you can't put too much pressure on it. They had what they call timbits, which are the tiny little kids that come out that are learning how to play soccer, and they're just like a beehive of children following a ball, but they don't have much impact. And so in the off season, that part of the facility can be used. And so that's one thing that West Shore staff does do, is try to, in times that it's not being used for one sport, could they use it for another, and so on and so forth. So that, and we have different interest groups that come and they want to be tenants. There's 25 different tenants on the property. How do we block that out, and what other usable aspects are we giving to the patrons across the ownership of 5 owners? Councillor.
Well, I just couldn't let the curling thing go. Apart from the fact that my entire family curled at West Shore before it was closed. There was recently a Curling Day in Canada event. They have that every year across the country. And they showed stories on, little tiny kids that practically were riding the rocks down the ice, all the way to 90-year-olds, because it is a sport that really can be for any age. There's wheelchair curling, there's stick curling. You don't have to kneel down to throw the rocks. So it's a hugely versatile sport. And similar to what they do with the lawn bowling, the ice comes out, and then the facility can be used for other things during the spring and summer months. So
we did have some pretty champion young people, high school level. So that was used by lots of folks of different ages.
Okay, number 2, Maxwell.
All right. So we'll keep rolling into question 2. And this one is about recreation and sport needs. So what facilities and programs are needed to meet the needs of your community now and into the future? And a fair bit of the input I've received already actually covers this question, speaking about the need for curling, for example, the level of demand and appreciation for some of that off-site fitness programming, and then perhaps building upon that with some evening program for adults and opportunities for youth as well, along with some other comments that were made that I have notes for. So we've covered a little bit of this question already, but if there's any other thoughts about recreation sport needs, please go ahead.
I hate to bring everything back to curling, but where's curling done now? Okay.
Any comments on this section that maybe we haven't covered, committee?
Just the one thing that sorry, can't formulate. Come back to me.
The one thing I'd like to add to this section, and it was mentioned earlier by Councillor Epp, was we also have an arts and cultural component to our school. So if West Shore is looking for a place to do arts and cultural through the programs already having, it could be an opportunity to connect with our community that's doing that at the school. There are several different studios, so that might be something that could be facilitated by way of West Shore Parks and Rec as well, for all ages.
Right. Okay. So maybe some offsite programming for arts and culture. Is that what you're making a link to? In Machosa? Right.
So we have this facility. It's about half of the school that has arts and culture programs going on, usually later in the day. So there may be opportunities to connect with, we call it MACA, so it's Majosan Arts and Cultural Association, I think is the acronym, what it stands for. So if they were looking for another satellite place, we are open for business. The building is able to be rented possibly. It's just a matter of connecting with our staff to see if that is something that would work in tandem with West Shore Parks and Recreation, just as an idea. It's not recreation necessarily, but the whole place has a lot to offer.
Right. And can you describe who this MACA group is? Are they set up like a group of volunteers? Are they a nonprofit? Are they supported by the district? How does that look?
I'll pass that on to my colleagues who actually is their portfolio. Either of you like to explain that?
What was the question though?
MACA, what is MACA actually?
Well, yeah, I mean, MAC is a leasing agent for the arts sort of side of the school. Yeah, and they are totally volunteer driven. They actually have a lease agreement for half of the facility that we affectionately know as the school, and are generally self-sustaining. They are open, as I understand it, to working collaboratively, but they have limited space to do new things right now because they have leases for the rooms that they have, or they are renting out the big rooms that they have. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the extra information there. Any other comments on question 2?
Just one thing that I've heard, and it's probably not unheard elsewhere, is the importance of swimming lessons. And what I've heard over the last few years, anyways, from younger parents of younger kids, is it's really hard to get into swimming lessons, and it might be from a lack of instructors as well. So just keeping not only in mind the fact that kids need the time, but also need to educate the instructors. So.
Right, yes. And we've heard some pretty extreme stories of the difficulties of getting into swimming lessons. It's almost as challenging as getting Taylor Swift tickets, but you've got multiple computers set up, or parents do, and they're right when it opens, they're very fresh trying to get in, and some of them don't get in. So that really speaks to the level of demand that and perhaps lack of supply in the region. So yeah, thank you for your comments, sir.
And Max, yeah, you got to fix that, okay? Because we don't want to return to the days of sink or swim.
No, definitely not. Yep, point well taken there.
Sorry, bad joke.
Just on the point of swimming, Max, we did have a presentation not too long ago about a group who are thinking about the benefits of an outdoor pool in the West Shore. And I don't know if you've heard about them, or it wasn't really tied to West Shore Parks and Rec, but maybe you should know about that other group. We could give you the coordinates separately.
Yeah, that would be great. I haven't had a chance to get connected in with them yet. They may have filled out a survey, but yeah, depending on how far along they are in their planning and research analysis, that could be a good input into the work that we're doing. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind making that connection, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll do that.
Max, speaking like kind of quite broadly, it would be interesting to understand sort of some of the national trends in terms of growth or decline of sport. So, for example, I've heard soccer seems to ever be increasing. Not sure about hockey, but pickleball, as we know, is going through the roof. So just understanding what the trajectories of various things are. And as Councillor App mentioned, we have an older population, so what sort of activities are gaining traction in that respect? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trends piece, that is an input into the work that we're doing. As much as possible, we do like to try to localize the trends and make sure that they are applicable to the community. So we are going to be looking for that. Because sometimes, broader national trends may not be overly applicable to the West Shore situation. But yeah, speak in general terms, soccer, it's the most participated in sport and still seeing a lot of growth there. Some of those other sports, particularly those that may have like a higher cost barrier to entry for some of them, such as hockey, in some instances, participation growth is kind of stagnating or maybe not growing as much as it used to. And kind of in general, we are seeing a bit more of a trend towards some of the spontaneous drop-in kind of public access style recreation. There are definitely a lot of communities that we've worked in across Canada, a drive to kind of get back some public access for facilities. You know, a lot of prime times can get chewed up, or not chewed up, but like booked with groups that are really engaged and involved and want the good times. And fair enough, I can understand why the demand is there, but there's only so much prime time to go around, and sometimes the public may not get their fair share. So we're seeing a bit of a swing in terms of the pendulum of facility allocation towards public access. So hopefully some of those comments answer your question there, and we'll definitely build into the report the trends that are most applicable for the West Shore. Any other comments or input on question 2?
Staff, go ahead.
Yep, thanks through the chair. And then will you be looking at municipal playgrounds at all in this review, or walking tracks as recreation facilities?
Yeah, definitely walking tracks, both indoor and outdoor. And on the playground side, yeah, I believe that is included in our survey. That will be in scope. That is sort of starting to stray into a bit more of that like kind of passive public use access, but it is an active activity, gets people moving. So that things like that, and spray parks, I think we will want to be looking at those. Yeah. Do you have any comments on the needs? Do you think the West Shore is really well served for playgrounds, or maybe they need some refurbishing or some new ones? What are your thoughts there?
I didn't quite hear you, but I'm not familiar with the playgrounds in Langford or anything, but I know in Metchosin we don't have a municipal playground at all. There are some at the schools, but I'd be curious to know, trend-wise, if that's a growing trend, what the uptake is for families to utilize those facilities, and versus, say, a tennis court.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'll make that note here. We'll look at it. All right. Any other comments, or are we going to move on to question 3?
I think question 3, sure.
All righty. So we touched on this, or some comments touched on this a little earlier, but it is a really important question. So it's good we're thinking about it, and it is around growth. So I would like to hear from you folks, as the population of the West Shore grows and new facilities are considered for development, what factors or considerations do you believe will be important to address? So we heard earlier, financial sustainability side of it. Yeah, we know budgets are really tight for municipalities right now, and you're seeing rather large increases in some cases coming through, which can be difficult to stomach. But yeah, moving forward, what other factors need to be considered, or if you'd like to build upon that financial sustainability piece and what that means for the District of Metchosin, I'd really appreciate that.
That's great.
Well, I've mentioned a few times co-location, and now I'm going to speak about the opposite. So the co-location really works well. We got a big facility at Juan de Fuca, and that's been terrific. But you've heard around the table the notion of call it satellites. Metchosin can take on some role there too, and so I think both are important, and kind of make use of best opportunities is what I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah.
I like what you said about the public, around prime time. I think that's probably an important, if that's I don't know if you identify that as a trend, but the idea of if you can build it in such a way or schedule it in such a way that there's sharing going on. So not just the people who are top of the game, but people who would like to be involved in learning and more the joy of participating.
Right. Yeah.
When I look at the site that Juan de Fuca occupies, I think from my perspective, personal perspective, I think it's done a terrific job in terms of the use of the land there, and then the preservation of a fair swath of land that is has trees and pathways and sort of has that other natural component, which I think is very important in terms of not being a sterile site, but actually quite a pleasant place to visit.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you there from our tour as well. Yeah, there's trail linkages there. There's the outdoor fields and yeah, the indoor components. The built environment is pretty well integrated into the natural environment. Yeah. Thanks for that. And sorry if I interrupted you with your next comment. Please go ahead.
Well, it wasn't much, I guess, just the idea that we have team sports and then individual sports, and both are important for different reasons.
Right.
That's right.
I had a long list of the sports played over there, but you got a list already.
Well, what I think is really important is considering that people seem to have less and less disposable income these days, and how municipalities are burdened with a lot of extra costs they're having to come up with in the budget, that it's really important to focus on facilities and activities that either are basically free or don't cost a lot of money, such as the walking track. Mr. Payette mentioned earlier, you have those type of walking track that have exercise equipment dotted around that are just free for people to use. There can be a basketball court that's not organized. Like, there's so much organized sports, but it'd be nice to have a few things where people could go and have a pickup half court basketball game, or fields that are available for just people to use, that parents or others, anybody that doesn't have to spend a lot of money. So I think focusing on more inexpensive options for people would be really good.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments.
And just in, along the lines of growth, it would be interesting, I'm sure you're doing this, is tracking the demographics or taking them into account. For example, I think the trend tends to be to having fewer children and having parents being older now. And so what does that mean for our future? I mean, are we going to see like more younger people in a blip going through the system? So like maybe 20 years from now, we don't have as many young people, more older people. So yeah, again, a demographic analysis matched against, trends and facility realities and all that might be interesting. So.
Absolutely. Yes, and a demographic analysis, that's another important input into this process of research activity that we'll be doing. And yeah, I'm a very strong believer in demographics. I mean, in my opinion, it's probably the best way we have of like almost predicting the future. Because demographics, once the generations have passed and have grown up and had their chance to have kids, that's basically, you're locked in at that rate. So yeah, looking at that and what does that mean over time for the West Shore for the next 20 years, that's going to be an important piece. Thanks.
And Max, even toward that, like if there's I don't know, again, like something you can do is look back 20 years ago and anticipate sort of a trend that we're now living. So for example, we talked about the importance of swimming lessons and some of the challenges we face to getting kids in there. Or again, whether there was a peak of hockey enrollment and where it is now. So like, what are we living that maybe would have been neat to have anticipated 10 or 15 years ago? Just one or two examples might be neat to sort of illustrate the importance of the look ahead. So
yes, I agree with you. Good.
Swimming might be a good candidate for that. So yeah.
In Metchosin, we also have 2 golf courses. One's a driving range and another one is a golf course. These might be also facilities that West Shore might partner with to see if maybe they do some golfing for our residents here on an introductory level or that sort of thing. So that's another option. They are private businesses, however, but certainly they are part of our landscape. And I do know there are quite a few people in Metchosin who golf. We also have seniors that actually participate in the BC senior games that do track and field. Archery was another one, horseback riding, but that's kind of limited. You need a horse for that. But there are some other. Clearly, we do have active people in our community, but we do have a landscape where we're offering some options for maybe partnership with West Shore Parks and Recreation to consider.
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you for highlighting those. We can look into that.
Any
All
other
right. Any
comments?
thoughts on question? Oh, thanks.
Not seeing any other comments. Okay. Back to you, Maxwell.
All right. Well, look at that. Perfect. Right on schedule at the hour there for this workshop. And yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for their input here today, for welcoming me into your council meeting. Yeah, I learned a ton and I really appreciated the conversation. And the door is still open. If you have any additional thoughts that you're like, oh, I should have told, or I should have said that to Max during the meeting, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is posted and included in this workshop, included in this PowerPoint. We'd be happy to hear some more input from you if you have it. But aside from that, thank you again and have a good rest of your evening, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Okay, committee. Any other comments as a committee?
The discussion kind of got more and more interesting.
So one of the things that you had raised, Councillor Shukin, was about the ice time, and so we have the Q Center, which is where the Grizzlies play, and then I think Shamrocks do when the ice isn't there. Also the Wanafika Recreation Ice time, the Wanafika Arena they call it, that's the original ice, is now being they're looking at keeping the ice in year round, simply because who wants to use it is the Hockey Academy. They are using Eagle Ridge, which is closer to Belmont School, but they're looking now at some ice time down at West Shore Parks and Recreation. So that is something that could be used more. What we have done with both those places is have different home shows, conventions, that kind of stuff in there as well. So the ice is taken out and there's or boards put down on top of it like they used to do with the curling rink and that. So again, looking at some versatility and other aspects of tenants to be using it in times that aren't a prime time like daytime. The pool definitely is maxed out right now. We have a good balance of what the pool is being scheduled for with the staff that we have, but there's more demand to get into the pool. So we'll see what happens. Langford now, of course, we know has the Y, so maybe that'll offset some of the demand. I don't know how busy the Y pool is, but we'll see what happens in the future. Yeah, they're also very, very expensive to operate. So it's other programs actually pay for, subsidize the pool use. It's money out all the time between ice and pool. But even though there's a demand, it doesn't seem to cover the cost. So yeah, that's why it's great that you got a recreation facility that takes it on that has other a business model where it can be there's a lot of ebb and flow and cover the costs and still come out ahead. Okay, so seeing that there's no other anything else to add to the topic, I will call for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Shukin, second by Councillor Ray. All in favor? Pass carried. Thank you.